Good morning, everybody. Stevie Breach coming to you. Sting seems to be the topic of the day. I was listening to the Wrestling Observer Radio this morning. Most of the time on Tuesdays, it's just an overall review of the show that was on Monday, and it's fun to get nice little tidbits of things. They always do a real thorough review of everything, going over what's happening and where everything's going and everything like that. But when they were going over all the video packages that they were showing last night, it was pretty cool. They were showing the best ofs throughout the whole show. Sort of like, what if the 60s had aligned, what if the 70s had aligned, and had this big match. They were sort of building up this Alberto Del Rio versus John Cena match, which fell sort of flat when they were showing you like Luthez and Buddy Rogers, Hogan versus Flair, Austin versus Sting, and all these matches that went along, that if you were like me back in the day and you were running your own little dream booking thing in your own little notebooks here, and you draw out like, what if WCW versus WWE actually happened? What if they got both of these companies to show up in the same place at the same time? What if we got to see Hogan versus Flair? What if it was today and you get to see somebody like the possibilities is just endless. The amount of times that you just went over this, where you get the two best ring technicians. Maybe you put Daniel Bryan up against AJ Styles. Then you'd put the two best high flyers, the two best brawlers, the two guys that had the sort of the same gimmick. And these guys just really just go out and fight it out. And maybe even you threw some three-ways in there back in the day when ECW was around. But the one guy that has always been a holdout, and the one guy that has always sort of messed up all the dream matches from wrestling. We've almost got every dream match that we've always got. Hogan versus Flair is one of the matches that I always dreamed about the most. And when Hogan and Ric Flair were both under contract to WWF back in the day, it always seemed like that's where they were going. And then somewhere right around WrestleMania, they pulled the plug, and they went with Sid versus Hogan, and they went Flair versus Macho Man. Flair versus Macho Man was a great decision. Hogan versus Sting, it is what it is. It was a match that we never got until both of these guys were in WCW. And everybody listening to this video knows that by the time WCW actually got a dream match, it really wasn't a dream match anymore. The Hogan versus Flair matches had so many run-ins and stipulations. Hogan, in his creative control, always wanted to make sure he looked 10 times better than Ric Flair. You can go watch the Best of Nitro DVD. Hogan's wrestling a match against Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson comes in to the match. Hogan's got... He ends up making himself look like the king of the ring. He's got one of them in the figure four, while he's got another one in a small package for a pin. Basically just killing the four horsemen at one time, making them both look like goofs. But the topic of the discussion today is Sting. I don't know why I rambled on for so long. But when you're watching through and they did the video package on Sting, Meltzer threw it out there that Sting was putting feelers out to WWE about coming over and finally joining the organization. I don't know if this is going to be a deal where, he sort of signs one of these Legends deals, he gets put into the Hall of Fame, gets to come out and wave to everybody saying thank you for supporting his whole career. WWE pushes out a DVD. We get a whole line of action figures for the next couple of years, and Sting's able to go off and retire and just sort of have that money slowly rolling in to, base his living style for the next couple of years to the end of his life. Or is he actually really putting feelers out to really come join the WWE? WrestleMania 27, it was hot and heavy with Sting rumors of him coming over. WrestleMania 27 was the return of The Undertaker after Nexus had killed him and buried him. Or I guess Kane did it and Nexus sort of helped. However it was. But they were doing this Undertaker coming back, and the way they did these first gimmicks was they released a little bit and all these things. So they finally showed The Undertaker standing there inside the cabin. But until that point, until they actually showed it, even there was people after the point after they showed Taker, they said, well, it's Sting watching him in the cabin and everything like that. But that was an awesomely fun time. I think everybody was dream booking, the lights would go out in the building, Taker would be in the middle of the ring, and Sting would appear with his, big crow on his shoulder standing on top of like the Titantron or something that pointing his bat down at Taker. I went through 1,000 times. I sold freaking 88 on going to WrestleMania on the basis of Sting being there. And we had a ton of fun. It wasn't like the trip was ruined because he wasn't, because that was the one point of it. It looked like he was actually going to come in. I have no clue with Meltzer when he was saying that, putting these feelers out. It was almost to the point that he was tripping over his words because he said too much. It was almost like he was going to, tell Bryan to edit that part out, but the words never came out. He just sort of, trailed off and around a circle. But I wonder how Sting is going to be killed off in TNA to the point where he can leave. I know he's building up the main event Mafia. They'll more than likely go up against the Aces and Eights. I don't know if it's going to be for one of these big impacts that they do, or if they're going to save it for a pay-per-view, but they don't have a pay-per-view until Bound for Glory. That would mean that Bully Ray wouldn't be able to be a part of this main event Mafia versus Aces and Eights match, so it's sort of like Sting taking on the Lackeys. And he's built up this, this great team of him, Magnus, you got Kurt Angle in there, and Samoa Joe. You got Rampage Jackson. Are they really going to lead this team in and they're going to lose? I mean, this Sting already got the big win at Impact. How do you get Sting out of TNA without him just sort of walking off and leaving him there? Sting is one of the guys that's really built up TNA, and it'd be really sort of a stab in the back if he was just sort of, do one show and just walk out the door and never come back. It's not like I want Sting to put somebody over. They've already put the writing on the wall that Sting's time in TNA isn't up, but it's coming to an end with him losing the match, saying that he could never get another TNA title shot. It's not like he needed to be in the title running all the time. He just needed to be a main guy that was on the show. But that to me is sort of like the weirdest thing of trying to put together how Sting can get into WWE, is how he can leave TNA and not just flip off everybody that's a fan there on the way out the door, saying that he's heading to greener pastures and getting money. I just feel like Sting owes it to them to do something, big on the way out, and we know that that's his last stand. If it's a one-on-one match, that would be great, but I just don't see how you can get him into this sort of 5-on-5 sort of a deal, like a Survivor Series match, and have that be his last go-round. I want Sting to go out on top in TNA because that's the way he came in, and it's easy to say that TNA wouldn't be what they are today. If they were to put Sting into a match, I don't think anything short of Sting versus Taker is what all the fans want to see. Even if it kills the fact that we're not going to get Undertaker versus John Cena, which is my dream match for the next WrestleMania. I think anything else would be a letdown, except for one of those two matches for me. But there's a whole lot of booking in between now and WrestleMania, but those are the easiest ones to book, and I think the ones that fans would want to go crazy to see the most. If New Orleans, I almost said if New Orleans isn't sold out, they haven't even sold fucking tickets. All I know is that I'm going, but it's going to be a blast, and where they go from here, I mean, it opens up all lines of discussion. I talked for 8 minutes and 30 seconds about nothing, about Sting coming, so I don't know what you guys think and what you think is going to happen, but any comment on this video would be much appreciated, and we can dream book out a good situation on what's going down. Peace out.